Welcome to another edition of the 21st Century Reformation Hour. I'm speaking from the office of Christian News. I'm the pastor of Trinity Lutheran Church. My name is Herman Otten, and now I'm the editor of Christian News. We just sent this issue to the newspaper. Our lead story this week refers to the new book by the Pope. I have the book right here. Joseph Ratzinger, Pope Benedict XVI, Jesus of Nazareth, Holy Week from the entrance into Jerusalem to the resurrection. Now, it sounds very pious to me. I read through the book. He quotes repeatedly Rudolf Bultmann. Rudolf Bultmann was a Lutheran, nominally, but no Christian. He denied the resurrection, and the Pope, most of the times, he quotes him very favorably. So the lead story I have now on the basis of the book. Here's my review of the book, quotations from the book, you can read it for yourself. Jesus of Pope, Bultmann, Bonhoeffer, King, not the Jesus of the Bible. That seems like a pretty crass statement. I encourage you to read it and you can see why that really is the case. The Jesus of the Pope, King, Bonhoeffer, Bultmann is not the Jesus of the Bible. The next article down here we have When Christian Century Opens Door for Sex Outside of Marriage. Here is the article, the cover, which I photograph here. And I point out that's a long-standing history of the Christian century. I quoted from an article that we reprinted some years ago where they say there is no sex exit ethic proclaimed in the Bible. Now here they open the door wide open for sex outside of marriage. Below that, Episcopalians promote queer theology. One of their new books, while they talk about a new theology, a queer theology. There's no such thing. There's only a scriptural theology. Over here, Time Magazine, What If He Doesn't Go? There we have Gaddafi, a foolish, unconstitutional war. Those of you who've been reading our paper for years know that I follow George Washington's principles. Don't get involved in wars all over the world. Build a strong defense, so they don't want to bother you, but don't get meddling all over the world. Over here, the new book by Northwestern Publishing House, A Lutheran Looks at the Methodists. I have quite a few quotations from the book. I found it a very perceptive book, and I also have a section there where I quote from, John Wesley was their hero, and here John Wesley, this is what he said. John Wesley, when he talks about his own theology, he says, I never really believed it. It is such a shocking statement here. John Wesley founded Methodism saying, I never believed. That was in his biography now published by Erdmans in 2003. Well, if you're interested in that movement, the reason why it concerned us because at Concordia Seminary in St. Louis, they've been having some Methodists come in there, Methodist preachers, to teach the boys how to preach. And they hailed them as great, famous Christians. Now, I know, I've spoken to various Methodist groups, Free Methodists and so on, so there are some evangelical among them. But basically, the theology which John Wesley proclaimed, and as this book points out, A Lutheran Looks at Methodism, is not really scriptural. Over here, a very interesting book, a magazine, Roman Catholic Theologian promotes panentheism in U.S. Catholic. That was the lead story in the U.S. Catholic, a Roman Catholic publication, by a sister, Ilia Delio, and that she is praised. And now in the book, she promotes panentheism, which is very like pantheism. It is not Christianity at all, and we expose that particular area there. Now, what's very interesting about this book about the Pope, we point out, they talk about the Pope and the resurrection. I have an article here taken from the Free Presbyterian. Does the Pope believe in the resurrection? Published in the Free Presbyterian magazine in Scotland. And they lead you to the conclusion he does not believe the resurrection in the same way that the normal Christian does. It's such double talk when you read the whole thing. You wonder, really, where do these people stand? And it's a tragedy that our own churches do not come up and point that out. Now, I have here The Remnant, which is published by a conservative, traditional Roman Catholic group. They have here Assisi and the death penalty, the death of the Catholic militancy. And they complain about the Pope worshiping with the Muslims and Jews. But the most devastating article in there is by Robert Sungenis. He's written several books. I've reviewed some of them in the past. It's unfortunate. I don't know what our professors are reading, but I never see them quoting any of his books. Here he has an article, and I have it photographed. The whole article is photographed in this issue of Christian News. It's called Santo Non Ancora, St. John Paul II. You know, they want to make him a saint now. And he points out in his book that he was an evolutionist, and he quotes a Father Raymond Brown, and pointing out that the Pope calls Brown one of the best exegetes in this century. I have here before me Father Raymond Brown's The New Jerome Biblical Commentary. That's the 1990 edition. And I have the one that came in 1968, and I went through them at great length. You can always tell here, as I've got them all marked up, all the different statements I quoted there. And I can assure you that Father Raymond Brown says the Bible contains myth, fairy tale, legends. He says Jesus was not the all-knowing God. Now, Pope John Paul II, he commends this man. Why isn't that our theologians, who have far more time than a pastor like I am, don't come out with this? Instead, what do? They praise, say, Richard Newhouse, who covered up for the popes. I have in here also in Christian News an article pointing out that Pope Paul VI, here, where I got it here, he was a homosexual, and that's thoroughly documented not by Lutherans, by Roman Catholics themselves. Now, why isn't that our churches do not point that out? Here it is. Homosexuality, rumor or reality. Here this Pope that our leaders were meeting with now is definitely concluded that he was a homosexual, yet nothing is said. It's a tragedy, though, that we have all this inner fighting among ourselves, among Lutherans, and yet they don't zero in on the main issues. So I end up my paper this week by saying it's time we need a 21st century Reformation. When you think of what's going on in Romanism, and what I've done, I've asked, how about you conservative Roman Catholics come along with us? You are complaining about the Pope, and rightly so. But unfortunately, some of them do not grasp the scriptural doctrine of justification by faith alone. That's the tragedy. Notice here, in the issue here, they have on the front page, Assisi and the death of the Catholic militancy. They have a photograph here. Cardinal Walter Casper leads celebration of the signing of the 1999 Joint Declaration of the Doctrine of Justification in Augsburg, Germany. I reprinted the entire document. Pointed out it does not affirm justification by faith. What you had liberal Lutherans, liberal Roman Catholics, who don't believe in the historicity of the Bible, the inerrancy of the Bible, and now they agree. It's liberals agreeing, but neither side really affirms justification by faith alone. Of course, the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod did not go along with it, but there were many who thought that maybe we should. I can assure you, I was right there, right at the spot where they signed it, and there was a priest there, and they had all the pictures there. I said, now, do you folks really believe in justification by faith alone? As this stuff, oh no, we haven't changed. We have, and he was a priest from Rome. We believe the same thing about justification. We still stand behind the canons and decrees of the Council of Trent, which condemn the doctrine of justification. Well, I see my time is up here, but really, we have to have a broad vision. We can't be just narrow-minded on our own little circle. So God grant you, and hope that all of you will join me and fight for a 21st century Reformation. God be with you.